Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, and as you can see today we are working in my reading journal. So I got kind of behind on the book entries, so I thought I would do a whole bunch of them and put it together into one video and share it with you guys. So I'm just getting started on the March book entries first because yeah, I was pretty far behind. So we're gonna start with March and then I'm gonna go up to as far as I've read in April. So the first book that I am working on is the Cultish audiobook that I listened to, and I'm trying to do some little swirlies that were kind of inspired by the cover for that book. But as you can see, I'm having some problems getting them the way that I wanted them, but it worked out in the end. And for my reading journal, I'm still really kind of trying to figure out how exactly I want to do the book entries, like how complex or minimal I want to do. Like at the moment, I would say that I'm kind of most of them are sort of more minimal because it takes a long time honestly to do each book entry. And so if I'm making them really complex, obviously the time just goes up and up, and I'm not trying to spend hours and hours doing these entries. I like to have them to look back and read, but I don't want to spend a crazy amount of time on them. So yeah, so for the cultish, as you can see, I managed to get swirlies working okay, kind of in the colors of the book cover, and then I'm also kind of using a similar font. And I already talked about these books from March in my March wrap up, so there shouldn't be any surprises in the ratings here. But yeah, I just kind of like to include obviously the title, the author, my rating, and then I write a little review, a little bit more, a little shorter than what I said in my video, but just kind of a summary of my main thoughts on the book. So that is the cultish one, and just adding a little bit more decoration to spice it up a little bit more. It was a little bit bland, so yeah, we're just adding a little bit more of that. And for the setup, I'm mostly just using my Crayola Super Tips, as well as some of the Figma Micron pens and the Sakura, I don't remember what it's called. It's the kind of felt soft brush kind of tip pen. I'm going to use it to do the title here. And so now I am moving on to the next book. We've got Invasion of the Tearling, which I didn't really care for that much, but I read it, so it's going in the book. And this entry I actually ended up making even more simple than the last one. I just kind of did the title in the style that that it is on the book. That was kind of the vibe that I went for most of the entries that I did in this session, was kind of inspired based on the book cover, whether that was to do the font for the title or just to use some of the colors. I'm sorry if you can hear yowling. Gemma has come in and decided it's time to yell at me. So yeah, that's happening. Both of the cats were very involved in my reading journal process. Anytime I film it on a chest by my window so I can get some good light, but they like to sit in the window, and they also, when I sit on the ground, they're like, oh my god, pay attention to us. So every time I film for my reading journal, they're both jumping up and standing in the window and blocking all the light. So it's cute, but they do get in the way. But I don't know, that's cats for you. Gemma is now currently laying on that chest in the sunspot on top of my reading journal. She looks pretty happy with herself. Okay, so the next book that we are doing an entry for is The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. And this one I decided to go for a full page kind of spread for, or I guess you would call it, I don't know if, I would consider this whole, both of these pages one spread, and then one side of it is one page. So that is the terminology I'm going to use. But for Fifth Season, I really didn't have any ideas of kind of imagery that would be simple that I wanted to do. So I just kind of was the cover is blue, we're gonna go blue, and it's not that interesting. And in retrospect, I kind of wish I had done something different, but oh well, there's not much I can do about it now. It is the way it is, and it's fine. So one thing that I was kind of starting to notice and continue to notice throughout this process is book covers, or book cover designs all seem to use very similar serif fonts. And I think we need to like, because I think there's room for some more variety in the type design on book covers. Like, I understand like a good serif font fits well for a lot of books, especially like fantasy. I feel like people associate with kind of like medieval and they or like old timey, and so they think of serifs. But like, I don't know, there's like so many beautiful typefaces that we could be using and try to like, I don't know, make covers a little bit more different from each other. I think a lot of the time covers like they kind of like start to like blur together. Like it might be like a nice cover, but there are so many nice covers that like it ends up being like really similar to the other nice covers. You know what I mean? Like it's hard to, you don't get a lot of book covers that like really stand out from the crowd, I guess is what I'm trying to say. All right, we are moving on to the next side or the next spread, and I'm starting with Vida Nostra. Again, this was kind of one that it's like, oh, there's Kitty. It's kind of difficult to come up with like imagery for because there's not really like, I wouldn't really say there's like a lot of like imagery in like this book. Like, I guess like books and stuff because she studies a lot, but like all of her assignments are like so like abstract that it's kind of like hard to like draw something that would like represent that. So I just went like with a simple yellow title because it's gold on the book. So trying to mash that a little bit and then filled in my entry. And for like my entries, I kind of I choose between just like regular printing or cursive, kind of based on what sort of vibe I think fits like the book or like the rest of the design of the page better. So for this, I'm using just like my normal handwriting cursive kind of thing, but going for kind of like a slightly larger size because I didn't have that much that I felt like saying here. And I know my handwriting's like not the neatest, but it's fine. Nobody else really needs to read these, so I mean, you can if you want to. If you want to pause it, you can try to read it. But yeah, it's just for me, so I don't worry too much about like making the printing of all the entries like super neat. And this is also kind of like the same reason that I don't get like super hung up on like making each entry like super beautiful and perfect. Like I like to have nice spreads to look at, but it doesn't really matter that much if they're not perfect. I mean, as you can see here, this is the entry for Season of Storms, and I was trying to make a circle so I could do like the little Witcher emblem, as you can see on my phone, but my mug was like the only thing I had that was like the best size, but the handle kept getting in the way, so it made it very difficult to like trace the bottom of it. But we got there at the end. It's all right. It's fine. So now I am just kind of sketching out the little wolf from like I think that's from the show, that emblem. I don't know. Each one has kind of like a slightly different variation on like the wolf kind of medallion, but this one also includes the sparrow for Siri. So, and I thought that this one would be kind of like pretty simple to draw, like, and just do like the line work for. So that's what I'm doing here. And actually, when I picked up Season of Storms, I was thinking that it was the final Witcher book, but actually, I haven't finished the series story arc yet. This one's kind of just like, as I mentioned in my wrap-up video, it's just kind of like Geralt, I don't know, doing his own thing, messing around. There's no Ciri involved, and I realized I haven't finished the Ciri story arc, so I do still have one Witcher book left to read, so that's something to look forward to, I guess. Although, I don't mind like the Ciri story arc, but it's not like my favorite. Like I kind of just like prefer Geralt and watching him like mess around, fight monsters, deal with the kind of sorceresses and sorcerers. I don't know. I think like that's like the most interesting part of the Witcher world for me. So now I'm just going back in on my Wolfie design with one of my micron pens to do the black line work. And as you can see, I kind of messed up a few times, but that's just life. It's kind of hard to like, I don't know. Maybe it's not hard for some people to like redraw on the same lines, but sometimes I find it difficult. I'm sorry if the spinning the book around is hard for some people to watch, but I can't, it makes it a lot easier to draw lines going in certain directions if I can move the actual book. And then for this entry, I just went for a normal printing because I feel like that is kind of like the vibe of Witcher. It's kind of chill, not unpretentious, if that's a word. So yeah, I was kind of trying to reflect that with my type choice. And I kind of feel like this like whole spread is like a little bit lacking. Like I'm trying to decide if I should go in and add something back in, like add something in now, although I did kind of fill up most of the space with writing, so it doesn't really leave me a lot of room, but I was kind of thinking maybe like some sort of simple border, either around like all of it together or like in each like separate color, like a red border around Season of Storms and like a yellow one for Vida Nostra. That's something I might do. Hmm. Yeah, I think I probably will do that. I'm gonna go do that later. All right, so that is finished up March, so we just are moving on to April now, and I'm just doing 4 of the books that I've read so far. I think I've read actually 5 now, but I will get around to setting those up later. I think I'm probably going to, in the future, try to do some more like reading vlogs, and I'll probably do reading journal updates in those reading vlogs so that I can try to be more on top of filling out my reading journal so I don't like leave it all till like several months later and have to like go back and like read my reviews to try to remember how I felt about each book and kind of do it more like in the moment kind of deal. So, the first one that I've got for April is Hunger of the Gods, and this one I just kind of the little like symbol on the top is like the symbol that's on the spines of the books. So I didn't do a very good job redrawing it here, but I feel like it gets the vibe across. And for this spread, I wanted to do all 4 of the books that I've read so far just in like one whole spread. So I'm gonna do 2 columns on each page where I'm gonna put the books into. So these ones are also gonna be pretty simple in terms of design, just because there's not a ton of space inside of like each column. So to fit 4 books on one spread, I can't do too much decorating, just like small icons like I did for Hunger of the Gods. So next up we have Body Keeps the Score, and that one definitely I think lends itself to not having a lot of decoration. It's definitely not a really decorative kind of book. Like it's just a nonfiction book about trauma and PTSD treatment. So keeping it very simple. The cover is blue, so we went with a little bit of a blue highlight, you know, very inventive and creative, I know. But as I said, I'm still trying to kind of like figure out what kind of style I want to have in my reading journal. I wouldn't mind having like a combination, like having some more plain ones and then going a little bit more in depth than this into like decorating for some of like my favorite books. I did in I think January and February I have a couple book spreads that are a little bit like more intensive for each one. I did like a full spread for the Live Ship Traders trilogy. Like I just put all 3 books into one spread and kind of decorated them together. So I might try to do some more of that, but I mean, putting like a whole series into a spread kind of really depends on me having read the whole series in the month, which doesn't happen very often. Like, oh hi Gemma, trying to read Live Ship Traders in one month was a bit of like was a bit intense because those are quite long books and they're kind of like more slowly paced, so you don't fly through them as quickly as you would through other books. I mean, I like them a lot better than most other books, but they are a little bit more slowly paced, take a little bit longer to read, which is definitely not a bad thing. It is just the way they are, and I love them for being that way, honestly. I think I've talked about Robin Hobb a few times on this channel, but she is just my favorite fantasy author that I've read from so far. Her characters are just unsurpassed, as everybody says. But I haven't even read any of her books in this month, so I probably should be talking about the books that I actually read. As you can see, I'm just about finishing up the entry for Black Wolves by Kate Elliott. That was a pretty enjoyable book. I had a good time, and I gotta tell you, man, I was so disappointed when I found out that the publisher had dropped the series and that we have to wait until she can hopefully maybe get the rights to that to get published somewhere else. I really hope she can, because some of the pacing was off in the book, especially around like the front part. I didn't feel like the time skip was handled super well, but it really picked up as it went on, and I really wanted to know what happened next, and to not be able to find out is really disappointing, honestly. And then the final book that I'm going to do in this video is Tress of the Emerald Sea. I'm realizing now I forgot to put the author and the rating, but oh well, I will talk about that. Well, I did already talk about that in my Brandon Sanderson video. So for this book, I did a little bit more decoration. I did a little drawing of Tress as she appears on the cover of like the special edition one, like on the in the Emerald Sea. And for this one, a I decided to go for pencil for the entry uh, material, medium, I guess you'd call it. Just because I don't know, it felt like the vibe of Tress, kind of softer. But yeah, that is everything. I'm doing a really quick flip through, and that is all that I have for you today. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.